Steeler Nation, we are riding high off of that victory. The Steelers are 4-2. A lot to talk about. But before we get into it, again, Mike's in Vegas, just getting back there. So maybe he was the good luck charm. So I'm riding solo today, but we have a great guest coming on. But before we get to that, I want to talk about our great partners over at Manta Sleep. It's the best sleep mask, 100% blackout, the only mask designed and optimized for the deepest sleep possible. Make sure you use our code 6sports. Again, that's 6 Steelers, actually. 6 Sports is what I'm going to do next for the DraftKings read. So, Jimmy, why don't we bring that up? TD Tutties and 6 touchdowns matters for more at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. We don't care how they score them. We want to bet on touchdowns, and DraftKings Sportsbook is delivering. Ready to place your first bet? Try betting on something simple like a player to score a touchdown. Go to DraftKings Sportsbook app and make sure you pick now. Score big and make sure you use our code 6sports. Again, that's 6 Sports. Jimmy, run it.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ftball.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Steelers Crazy.
Aaron Smith shields. Blackout. Polamalu takes it home. Super Bowl 43. Pittsburgh might be bound for that thanks to number 43.
The sickest Pittsburgh Steelers podcast. Sports entertainment like no other. It's gonna be sick.
Yes, indeed. And we are excited to welcome on our next guest on the Sick Podcast, Steeler Crazy, Frank Ammirante. And I would guess it that he is Italian. He is the senior sports writer at the Game Day. How are you, man? Thank you for your time. And as I told you off camera, definitely love all the content that you're pumping out. It comes across my Twitter feed. So very grateful to have you on the show today. How are you?
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to be on the show, talk some football, talk some Steelers. Crazy day in the NFL with all these trades. Amari Cooper, Davante Adams, Steelers benching Fields. We got lots to talk about.
Yeah, so let's kind of just jump right into it. Obviously, Davante Adams is now a Jet. Seen him on the Pat McAfee show popping up there. That was quite comical. The Jets are 2-4 though. Obviously, that's Pittsburgh's next opponent, and that leads us into who is going to be the QB. I said with my co-host Mike, I tell people all the time, and I tweeted out they thought I was crazy. I would post a picture of Russell Wilson, and I'm like, why not? Because I look at it right now is the Steelers is the QB of the future on the roster right now, or you can make a playoff run with Russ. Obviously, I think Justin Fields has definitely done a better job than Kenny Pickett has, but the ceiling wasn't very high there. But what I will say is it's sustainable overall moving forward, and is that your franchise quarterback? He's a dynamic player, but is he a franchise quarterback? I'm going to say no. So I say, why not? That Russ is 100% healthy now. Just kind of see what you got.
Yeah, I totally get that, especially with Russ playing on a team like the Steelers, with a good offensive line, and he's got George Pickens to throw to. He's got a great defense. Him. Maybe he can recapture some of his earlier season magic. It just, for me, it was a little surprising given the timing, because Fields in against the Raiders. Then again, it is the Raiders. So I do see your argument as well. Just see what Russ can do, because initially he was brought in to be the starter as it was. So see how it goes. Yeah.
And that's what I mean. At this point, it's I just kind of I know that you don't want to mess up the rhythm, but what is the rhythm? You have to put the ball in the end zone. I get that Justin Fields has 10 touchdowns and he does a lot of it with his feet. And I said it again, they could run a 2 quarterback system, when they're on the goal line, get in the red zone, have Justin Fields, he could, run it either way or downfield. I just want to really, at the end of the day, I want to see what Russ can do. And I don't see the issue with that now that he's 100% healthy. He's a proven winner, even when he was in Denver and Sean Payton couldn't stand him. And that was just not a good football team. He still put up a lot of touchdowns. So I'd like to see what they could do with him behind center.
Yeah, it should be interesting against the Jets, and the Jets being in a must-win situation, basically getting Davante Adams. That should be a good game on Sunday Night Football.
Yeah. So let's kind of talk about real quick. We always like to shift to the fantasy perspective. We always talk about a lot of people drafted George Pickens. Would you say that? I mean, I would say that fantasy wise and on the field really is underachieving this year. It's always like we're kind of waiting for George Pickens to break out. When is that going to happen? Like I think I tweet that every week, waiting for a George Pickens breakout game. When is that going to happen? And it just hasn't happened yet. Will it happen if Russell Wilson is a starter? Maybe. But kind of just fantasy value wise, especially people in deep leagues and keeper leagues, like where do you see his fantasy value? And do you see, obviously he's shown that he has the superstar talent, but it has to accumulate on the field.
Yeah, so for George Pickens, what we got to do is we just got to hope that the situation improves with Russell Wilson. We don't want to trade Pickens at a lower value right now. And like you said, he's been disappointing. And given what Pickens did with Fields, what we can say is like Russell Wilson is a better passer than Fields, at least maybe marginally, but he is a better passer. And we saw how Russ performed well last year with the Broncos with Cortland Sutton, having that big receiver who could make contested catches downfield. Pickens could do the same thing. So perhaps there's a nice fit there. So I'm like you. I've been waiting on that Pickens blow-up game because we know he could just win you a week at any time. Just think back to last year against the Bengals. I don't think it'll come this week against the Jets, even though the Jets defense hasn't been performing to expectation. They're still tough to pass, but I think it's more likely that Pickens has that big game with Russ because, like I said, he's a better passer. But in terms of value, you just got to stay the course with Pickens. He's a young, talented receiver. He's gotten off to a slow start. If you did want to trade him, wait till he starts to show signs of life where he recoups more value. We don't want to sell him at a discount, basically.
Yeah. It's kind of like, at this point, you kind of just have to wait and see. And I honestly think with Russell Wilson, I think that he's just going to be able to get the ball down the field more. We see that and actually, be a quarterback. I don't want to take away anything from Justin Fields, but like just from my eyeballs and what I've seen, like it just doesn't seem sustainable at this point. Like he's like, I seen this. I keep referring to X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it now. And it's funny because like I always see like so many people tweeting like Justin Fields, and it kind of gives you when he was with Chicago. I like to not think of that. It's a clean start, but it's like you see flashes of him, his decision making and some of the things that he tries to do, but then he does stuff like, runs it into the end zone when they're in the red zone. And I'm like, man, like I'm loving this guy. And then it's like, I'm scratching my head on the next one, kind of like that interception that got taken away because of the roughing the passer call. I was kind of like, man.
Oh, yeah.
So, that kind of bailed him out right there. And, it felt like for me personally watching that last game, the Raiders game, like it was a blowout for the Steelers, but I feel like it was more of a defensive domination in the offense. The defense set them up to win. I want to be, can Justin Fields win the game himself if it's on the line? We can't rely on TJ Watt and the Steelers defense all the time. It's great. Defense wins championships. I'm not saying that, but let me see it on the offensive side of the ball and play 4 quarters. Like this slow start thing, like you have to play all 4 quarters. I'm not asking you to come out in the first quarter and, put up 30 points, but at least, play a full football game. So yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. I know you said you were a Commanders fan. There's a lot of upside there. So it's just crazy. The NFL is, I tell everyone and tell our producers over at the Sick Podcast all the time, like, because we do this podcast 365 days a week and days a year. And what's crazy about it is that like there's so much storyline from like even when the season ends, I think that there might be more storyline leading up to the combine and an OT. It's insane.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I don't know about you, but this year feels even a little crazier than usual. Like every week there's been a crazy upside. You think of survivor pools, like every week the big favorite was losing. You have Juju Smith-Schuster getting signed off the street. He puts up 130 yards with the Chiefs. He's like in the Rashee Rice role. There's so much crazy things going on, and hey, with the way this season's gone, who knows what if like Russ could perform well in this
Yeah.
system. Like look at how
AFC Championship.
Look how Arthur Smith helped out Ryan Tannehill back when Arthur Smith was the Titans OC. So you never know. It could work out.
Yeah. So I know you're a betting guy too. I wanted to ask you this. So what are the odds and who do you have winning the AFC North? Obviously like the Browns are pretty much, I feel like they're already done at this point. The Bengals, I never count them out, and the Ravens seem to be clicking as the Ravens, and then the Steelers surprisingly are 4-2. So where do you see at the end of this season going into the playoffs? Who can win this division?
I think I'm just pulling up the odds now just out of curiosity, but in terms of who I think you got to go with the Ravens. They're just clicking on offense. Derrick Henry's rolling, and Lamar's playing at an MVP level once again. It's tough not to go with them, but you got to be the Steelers have, I would say, getting off to this start. Maybe you can argue it's exceeding expectations a little bit. They could squeak in the playoffs. I don't think they'll win the division. You got to go with the Ravens, though. I just can't find the odds for some reason on draft.
It's all right. Yeah, I mean, I think that's everyone's answer. I mean, I would say the Steelers are a tough second. But the crazy thing is we always, if you look at the Steelers' record against Lamar Jackson, if he's healthy when we do play them, definitely have his number as of late. But yeah, so. What would you say, we always like to ask, national media guys, not so much. We have a lot of local media guys on here, so we like to get an unbiased opinion. What would you say for you on the outside looking in? What would be a successful season for the Pittsburgh Steelers?
I think a successful season for the Steelers would just be to make the playoffs and maybe eke out a win in the first round or play close in the first round, because let's face it, they're not. You wouldn't call them Super Bowl contenders, but remaining competitive like they have under Mike Tomlin. And hey, I know the Browns coming into the year, we thought they'd be better. They're atrocious, but still a tough division, even with the Bengals season struggles. I think the Bengals will start to figure it out and get back on track. But Pittsburgh making the playoffs would be a successful season. And I mean, probably the best would be if Justin Fields showed more and then established himself as maybe he's like the potential quarterback of the future. But like you said, the inconsistency is still there. You can't really consider him as, the long-term answer there.
Yeah.
So now going back to Russ, maybe if Russ looks rejuvenated, back to maybe somewhat close to Seahawks form, and they make the playoffs, that could be, I think that's the stealing case for the Steelers.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. The way that quarterbacks, I mean, you look at Aaron Rodgers, perfect example. These guys, at the end of the day, is if your offensive line's protecting you, we've seen it. I hate to bring up Tom Brady as a Steeler fan. I respect his game, but obviously he not some memories that I want to forget there. But anyways, it just goes to show you that these quarterbacks could definitely play, have long careers. So we'll wait to see. And that's why I kind of want to see Russ. It's so funny because the minute I was kind of I've been on the Russ train and I never went off it. I just kind of think that in a way, obviously I feel that he was healthy. Probably 2 weeks ago could have played, but I think that it's an experiment. The Steelers are still 4-2. They kind of got a gauge on what Justin Fields can bring. And I feel like this whole podcast, it's been quarterback talk, but I mean, it's exciting. This is to me, it's a good problem to have, because after watching Kenny Pickett for the last 2 seasons, 13 touchdowns, and I love Kenny Pickett, but and I wanted it to work out more than anyone, but you just have to be blunt about it. It was quite possibly one of the biggest busts, at least for the Steelers. But it's just really good to see the offense move a little bit better and maybe just more exciting. So we'll see. It's a long season. I mean, it's crazy. We're 6 games in and it feels like it's, we're at the end of the, season already, but there's so much more football to go. But it's interesting. But yeah, man, it's been great talking to you. Just tell everyone, I really, that's how I discovered you, on Twitter, and your content's great, fantasy wise too. Just tell everyone what you have coming up and where we can find you at.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter or Instagram and TikTok as well. Amarante TFJ. All my content at thegameday.com. I got weekly fantasy football rankings, which last year were ranked 6th on Fantasy Pros of most accurate. So helping with your start and sit picks there. I got bets posted on Twitter and at the game day. I'm always engaging on Twitter, like you found me, putting out any useful things that I see. And but hey, man, coming into this show, when I saw Justin Fields bench, I don't know. I was like, I don't. But I think you've sold me. It makes a lot of sense. Just see what Russ can bring to the table. I mean, you can sell it in a way like, what if Russ just didn't fit with the Broncos and he kind of looked like his Seahawks form? You never know. So you got to see how it works out. So I agree.
And I hate to say it's an experiment, because you don't want to experiment with your starting quarterback. It's the most important position in all of sports. You could argue, but. Like, again, I think it's a good situation to be in. If these two guys that are your quarterbacks right now, if they're not the future, then you see what you can get in the draft, see what you can get in a trade. Omar Khan is it's a new era, I guess you can say, in Pittsburgh. So we'll see. I mean, it's definitely interesting. And we do play the Commanders this season, I believe, right?
That's going
to be a good one.
That should be a good game.
Yeah, you excited? Who you taking in that game, or you don't give too much early picks?
Well, it's in Washington. It's week 10. Okay. I just found it.
Okay, I knew. I thought that they played them. I wanted to say I knew that's going to be a great game.
That could be like the spread's probably going to be like Washington -3. It's going to be a close game. Probably come down to a field goal. The Steelers just, even when they. We could say the Commanders have a way better offense, but the Steelers just know how to keep games close. We've seen it against the Ravens, how they've, played Lamar Jackson stuff. Wouldn't even surprise me if they pulled out an upset there. And that always kind of weird stuff happens when an NFC and AFC team meet, tend to happen. Yeah. Should be a close game, though. Look forward to it.
Yeah. Well, hey, we really appreciate your time here on the Sick Podcast, Steeler Crazy. We'll definitely have to have you on again and keep cranking out the great content. And yeah, man.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Good luck with Russell Wilson, and we'll talk. I'd love to come back on. Go Steelers.
Yeah, of course. I'll definitely keep in touch. Appreciate it. And we'll see you, week 10, you said?
Yeah.
All right. Good. All right. Yeah. Just all around great stuff. I always love having guests on that, I see their content. I really enjoy their content, and to put a name to the face is always great, and just some great insight, and kind of just like, it's kind of like beating a dead horse with this QB talk, but it really isn't, because we're getting into the thick of things. 6 games in, I'm just ready to see something different at this point. I don't think it can hurt. And if it doesn't work, you go back to, plan A. So again, we really appreciate everyone hanging out with us. Always make sure you subscribe wherever you listen to our podcast. Get your podcasts. Shout out to DraftKings, Man of Sleep, Homage. You could check out all the links. Make sure you use our code 6Steelers, 6 Sports. Type it in. Make yourself some money. Get yourself some good sleep. They go hand in hand, so you could be rested for game day. I am Jay York Football. Mike will be back at the end of the week. He's traveling back from Vegas after that Steelers victory. So safe travels, my guy, and I will see everyone soon. Thank you, Frank, for coming on. Make sure you subscribe. Until next time, Jimmy, take it away.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Steelers Crazy on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.